All right, let's kick this deep dive off with a quick thought experiment. Imagine you're frantically searching for something critical. Maybe it's that one report, buried on your desktop, or a specific tool somewhere in a messy workshop, or maybe just your keys when you're already late.
Yeah, that feeling. We all know it.
A little moment of frustration, right? Wasted time, not seeing what you need instantly. That's kind of the subtle chaos we're going to target today.
That feeling, that unproductive searching, that's exactly the problem our topic, well, it aims to solve. Today, we're diving deep into 5S and visual controls for a high-performance workplace. And look, this isn't just about tidying up. It's really unpacking a systematic, proven approach. It's about creating environments that are safe, efficient, and, importantly, really transparent in how they operate.
And our guide for this is Vishnu Rayapeddi's material.
Yeah.
It's really comprehensive stuff.
It is.
A fantastic resource for understanding how these principles, which, often come from manufacturing, can actually radically transform any kind of workspace. Think of this as like your shortcut to operational excellence.
Yeah.
Getting a really informed perspective on workplace efficiency,
Yeah, and our mission here is basically to pull out the most impactful insights from this material. We want to show you how this foundational approach can really transform any workspace, how it can drastically cut waste, boost productivity, and just make everything visually clear for everyone involved.
Okay, so let's start with the big question. Why 5S? Like, what's the fundamental impact? Why is it so critical?
Well, what's really fascinating, I think, is that 5S acts as the bedrock. It's the essential starting point for pretty much any other improvement initiative you might want to do. It builds this environment of discipline and order, and that's the foundation you need for sustained operational excellence. Honestly, without 5S, other lean tools, they often just struggle to take root.
Okay, so it's not just about being neat. It's like preparing the ground for bigger changes. But beyond that sort of cultural shift, what are some of the maybe less obvious benefits that 5S brings? Things people might not immediately think of.
That's a great question, because the real magic is often in those subtle shifts. Many people overlook how 5S, just through simple daily habits, it cultivates this collective, problem-spotting muscle.
Problem-spotting muscle.
Yeah, it's not just cleaning. It's like a daily, low-stakes practice in noticing and fixing small things that are off before they become big problems, big defects.
Okay.
And that ability then scales up across the whole operation. Plus, you get the more obvious things like improved productivity, better maintenance schedules, and a significantly safer workplace.
You mentioned safety there. The source material hints at maybe an evolution to 6S. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Absolutely. So the standard 5S is sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain. But yeah, many industries have evolved this to 6S.
Yeah.
The 6S explicitly stands for safety, which means safety isn't just a side benefit, it's built in as a foundational step. Safety considerations are actively designed into everything layout, tasks not just tacked on later.
Right.
It really deepens the impact.
That distinction seems pretty crucial. Now, the source also draws this stark contrast between traditional companies and lean ones regarding value-added activities. What does that comparison tell us?
Oh, it's incredibly revealing. Traditional companies, they might only have 4% of their activities actually adding value for the customer.
Only 4%.
Yeah, which means a staggering 96% of what they do could be considered waste.
Wow.
Now, contrast that with world-class lean companies. They completely flip that. They achieve maybe 60% value-added activities with less than 40% waste. The difference is just huge. It shows the immense potential for improvement.
96% waste. That figure is almost, it's shocking, isn't it?
It really is.
So 5S then is a powerful weapon against all that waste.
Right.
But, okay, before we fight it, we need to recognize it. The source talks about different types of activities, value-adding versus non-value-adding. How do we pinpoint those 8 hidden wastes that 5S targets?
Yes. Understanding waste is absolutely critical. So broadly, you've got value-adding activities as what the customer actually pays for, what transforms the product or service. Then there's non-value-adding. But even within that, there's a difference. There's required but non-value-adding things, like necessary legal paperwork or compliance steps. You have to do them, but the customer doesn't see value. And then there's just pure waste, stuff customers definitely aren't paying for. And that's what 5S ruthlessly goes after.
Right.
These are often remembered by the acronym downtime. So that's defects, overproduction, waiting.
Okay.
Non-effective use of staff talent, a big one. Excessive processing, motion, transportation, and inventory.
It's funny when you list them like that, downtime. you suddenly realize how much of our daily life, even outside work, has these
Oh,
wastes.
absolutely.
Like looking for your phone charger again. Classic, searching waste and motion waste right there. It kind of puts a new lens on personal efficiency too, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
And 5S is that foundational tool to systematically attack and reduce every single one of those wastes.
So we've got the why, the huge impact of 5S. Let's just quickly recap what it is for maybe those who've heard the term but want to dig a bit deeper. What's that core definition we should keep in mind?
Right. At its heart, 5S is a systematic method. It's a way to create a workspace that's safe, efficient, and, crucially, highly visible for everyone working there. It's seen as a fundamental pillar of lean manufacturing, and often it's the best starting point for continuous improvement because you see results quickly. It's
Yeah.
tangible.
Yeah, and I like how the source boils it down to something so simple, almost like that old saying, maybe from your dad or granddad, a place for everything and everything in its place.
Exactly. It really cuts to the core, doesn't it?
It does.
It speaks to that fundamental discipline and, well, simplicity. It's a method to boost efficiency, sure, but deeper down, it's a real shift in how we think about wasted effort and time in our daily work. It's generally seen as the least complex lean tool to implement.
Okay.
But, and this is key, its success totally hinges on getting buy-in from every single level. Top management, frontline staff, everyone.
And the origins are kind of interesting too, right? Didn't it start somewhere unexpected?
Yeah, surprisingly, the basic concepts behind 5S actually showed up first in supermarkets, dealing with all that stock and flow.
Supermarkets, huh?
Yeah, then it was adapted and transferred very successfully to manufacturing and now all sorts of industries. And historically, there's a very clear link between these kinds of organized practices and improvements in both productivity and occupational safety and health.
Okay, so the 5 S's. They're Japanese words originally, but the English translations conveniently also start with S, which is pretty handy.
It is. It's a clever bit of linguistic luck, helps people remember them.
Right, so let's dive into each one. We started with that challenge of, like, clutter and not finding things.
Mm.
How does the very first S, sort, or seri, meaning tidiness, how does that directly attack that initial chaos?
It hits it head on. SORT is all about making active decisions. The core action is pretty simple. Get rid of anything you don't absolutely need in the workspace. So that means throwing out rubbish, clearly separating necessary stuff from unnecessary stuff, trying to keep the number of necessary items low if possible,
Right.
and making sure whatever is needed is kept somewhere convenient, somewhere accessible.
And a big part of figuring out the unnecessary stuff is the red tag system, isn't it?
Yes, the red tag process is, well, it's a really smart visual tool. You use it for items where you're not immediately sure if they're needed right there, right now. If something gets a red tag, it's basically put aside, quarantine for evaluation.
Okay.
Then you follow a clear process, a decision framework for what happens next. Do you throw it out? Can the company auction it? Donate it? Give it away? Return it to where it belongs? Or maybe it just needs repair or recycling.
Got it.
It's a really structured way to deal with the clutter that just naturally builds up everywhere, factory floor, office, you name it.
That proactive decision-making seems key. Now, moving on, the second S is set in order, or Satan. That translates to orderliness. This really sounds like the embodiment of that place for everything idea.
It truly is. The core idea is exactly that, a place for everything and everything in its place.
Sure.
But it's actually more strategic than just, putting things away randomly.
Also,
It's about finding the optimal place, the best place. And you do that by really looking at the workflow, how things are used, and also ergonomics. The goal is that every single item should be easy to find, obviously, but also easy to use, easy to put back.
right.
And this is important. It should be immediately obvious if something is missing. Think about all those wasted minutes, maybe hours sometimes, just looking for a tool or a file because it wasn't where it was supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And what specific kinds of waste does this step, this orderliness, help eliminate?
Oh, this step is huge for waste avoidance. By having a defined place for everything, you dramatically cut down on motion waste, people moving around unnecessarily, and searching waste.
Okay.
That naturally reduces the waste of human energy. It can even help manage excess inventory because you can actually see what you have clearly. Plus, it can cut down on defective products if people are always using the right tool because it's in the right place. And it even makes things safer by keeping walkways clear and tools stored properly, less waste of unsafe conditions.
The source mentioned an ABCD storage method, which sounded really practical for figuring out where to put things.
Yeah, that's a really smart, simple system. A items are used always, like constantly, so they should be reachable within maybe 30 seconds, right there in the immediate work area.
Okay.
B items are used often, maybe reachable in 2 minutes, kept within the same department or zone. C items are used occasionally, so they can be stored somewhere else within the plant, but accessible. And D items are used rarely. Those can potentially be stored externally, even off-site sometimes. It's a tiered approach to optimize access, but minimize clutter right where you work.
And ergonomics making work easier, simpler, safer. That ties right into this too, doesn't it?
Absolutely, directly. The whole point of ergonomics in this context is designing the workspace so the work is easier on the body. Simpler, safer. It means designing things to avoid awkward movements, like too much lifting, repetitive strain, reaching too far, twisting. Practically, it could mean using carts or rollers for heavy things, storing the heaviest tools or parts at a good height, like around trunk height for the operator, to minimize strain. And this is exactly where visual controls start to become invaluable.
Visual controls. Like you mentioned, job boards, shadow boards, floor lines.
Yes.
These things make the status of work immediately obvious, right? It prevents that frustration of not knowing where something is or what's going on. That shadow board example is such a classic.
It really is. A shadow board instantly shows you exactly where each tool belongs, and more importantly, if one is missing. Just a glance tells you. It's a perfect example of a visual control making things easy to find and easy to tell when they're missing, hitting those set and order goals perfectly.
Okay, third S. We move to shine, or say so, meaning cleanliness. Now, this isn't just about making things look nice, is it? It sounds like there's more strategy here.
Oh, far more. Shine really emphasizes individual responsibility. Everyone is responsible for keeping their own equipment and workspace clean. So yes, everyone becomes a cleaner in a sense, but it's more profound than that. It actually transforms the act of cleaning into a form of inspection.
Cleaning as inspection.
Exactly. It fosters pride in how the work area looks, sure. And it's definitely not some big cleanup once a year thing. It's continuous, daily.
So how does that shift in mindset cleaning as inspection? How does that actually change things on the ground?
It's transformative, really. When you're actively cleaning your machine or your area, you're not just wiping dirt, you're looking closely. Are there any new oil leaks? Is a part looking loose? Is something vibrating strangely?
Okay.
Means small problems, potential defects become obvious much sooner. It prevents slips or injuries from spills or clutter. It basically ensures machines get these regular little checkups, which helps prevent breakdowns and keeps productivity up. And it can prevent incorrect operation too, if dirt is obscuring controls or causing issues, which could lead to bad parts or even hazards. Plus, honestly, a clean, well-maintained place just boosts morale.
Yeah, I can see that. It's about preventing problems before they even start. Okay, fourth S, standardize, or seketsu. This is about standard practice. This sounds like the glue that holds the first three S's together.
It is. That's a great way to put it. Standardization is all about creating a consistent, repeatable way that tasks and procedures get done. Critically, it's the result you achieve when sort, set and order, and shine are being properly maintained and, importantly, made routine. It's what makes the improvements stick, so they're not just a one-off blitz.
So how do you actually implement that kind of consistency? Make it stick across the board?
Well, you start by clearly defining who is responsible for maintaining those first three S conditions: the sorting, ordering, shining. Then, and this is really key, you have to integrate those 3S duties into people's regular work activities. Make it part of the daily or weekly routine, not some extra chore tacked on.
Right, not another thing to do.
Exactly. And finally, you need to regularly check how well those 3S conditions are actually being maintained. Are things staying sorted, ordered, and clean? Tools to help with this include things like 5S maps, maybe showing before and after layouts visually. 5S schedules are common, detailing who cleans or checks what, when, and where. And maybe 5S job cycle charts for specific tasks and how often they need doing.
And this ties into a really crucial concept for prevention: the 5 whys and 1 how approach. Can you unpack that? It sounds like a powerful problem-solving tool.
Oh, it's incredibly powerful. This is where you shift from just reacting to problems to actively preventing them by getting to the actual root cause. The 5 whys technique is simple in concept. You just keep asking why, usually about 5 times, sometimes more, sometimes less, to dig down past the symptoms to the underlying reason for an issue.
Okay.
Once you think you've found that root cause, then you ask how. How can we definitively fix this so it doesn't happen again? It pushes you beyond just patching things up.
Like that example in the source about the leaking drill press machine.
Yeah.
You don't just keep mopping up the oil.
Exactly. You ask, why are we mopping the floor every day? Because there's oil. Okay. Why is there oil? Because the drill press is leaking. Why is it leaking? Because the valve is broken. Why is the valve broken? Maybe it wasn't inspected or maintained properly. Why wasn't it noticed? Maybe there wasn't a standard check in place. Then you get to the how. How do we fix it? Well, we implement a scheduled maintenance order to check or replace that valve regularly. And maybe the operator adds a quick visual check to their daily routine. That's real prevention. That's continuous improvement.
Makes sense. Which brings us logically to the fifth and final S, sustain, or shitsuke. This means discipline. And this often feels like the hardest one, right? It's about long-term commitment.
It often is the most challenging, yeah, because it's all about making a habit of properly maintaining the correct procedures. It's about cultivating the discipline needed to make sure the other four S's don't just fizzle out after the initial push. It's less about physical actions and more about embedding it in people's hearts and minds, their ingrained behaviors and attitudes.
So what's the real cost if you don't sustain the 5S effort? What happens when that discipline starts to fade?
Well, the consequences are unfortunately pretty predictable. Things just slide back. Unneeded items start piling up again, tools don't get returned to their proper places, equipment gets dirty, which leads to more breakdowns, items get left in walkways, creating trip hazards, dirty machines might start producing more defects, and, staff morale tends to drop again.
Yeah.
It really comes back to that rhetorical question we have to ask. Do we really want to go back to the old habits, the old ways of doing things, back to that initial chaos we talked about at the start? The answer should obviously be no.
Right. So if sustain is about hearts and minds, you can't just implement it like a new policy or a machine. How do you actually encourage it, make it stick?
That's the right way to think about it, encouraging it.
Yeah.
You need to create the conditions that make sustainment likely, make it easier, make it desirable. So that means fostering genuine awareness of why 5S is important, its benefits, allocating specific, dedicated time for these activities so it's not an afterthought, providing structure, clear expectations, and crucially, offering ongoing support. That means visible acknowledgement from leadership, providing necessary resources. Rewards and recognition for teams or individuals doing well definitely help. And trying to make it fun or satisfying, maybe showing the direct positive results of their efforts.
And the source mentions tools to help promote sustainment too, right?
Yeah.
Like slogans, posters.
Yeah, lots of promotional tools can help keep it top of mind. Things like clear slogans, engaging posters, maybe photo exhibits showing before and after progress, which can be really powerful.
Yeah.
Newsletters highlighting successes, maps showing 5S zones, maybe even little pocket manuals, department tours to showcase best practices. Some places even have designated 5S months with special events or audits.
Okay. And that 5S audit results chart shown in the source, that seems like a great visual tool itself for sustainment.
Exactly. When people can actually see their collective progress tracked on a chart over time, maybe month after month, it powerfully reinforces the value of their sustained discipline. It motivates them to keep improving, keep going.
Okay, so we've covered the 5S's pretty thoroughly. But this deep dive also includes visual controls. How do they fit into this whole picture? And what's the difference between visual displays and visual controls? They sound kind of similar.
They do sound similar, but that's a really critical distinction to make. Let's break it down. Visual displays are primarily about communicating important information. Their job is to make information instantly available, avoiding confusion, mix-ups, and speeding things up. But they don't necessarily control actions directly.
Okay, so they show information, like what?
Think about things like and-on lights on machines. Maybe green for running, yellow for needs material, red for stopped or breakdown. They display status. Or parts always being stored in clearly identified locations. Maybe separate marked areas for good parts versus defective parts, mark walkways or machine areas, labeled controls on equipment, even things like attendance charts.
Got it.
It really comes down to that old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Visual management is everywhere in daily life too, right? Clearly marked fire exits, hazard labels on chemicals.
Yeah, true. And speaking of clear communication, that ANSI color coding standard seems like an incredibly powerful visual display tool, almost like a universal language.
It really is. This standard assigns very specific, widely recognized meanings to different colors in workplaces. It creates instant understanding without needing words.
Can you remind us of some of the key ones?
Sure. So red is almost universally danger, stop, or fire equipment. Fluorescent orange or orange-red is often used for biosafety hazards. Yellow typically indicates caution, watch out for tripping, falling hazards, or maybe flammable materials nearby. Orange is generally a warning, often for hazardous parts of machinery or energized equipment. Green points to safety first aid stations, safety showers, emergency eye wash.
Right.
Below E is usually for information signs, bulletin boards, things like that. Then you have black, white, yellow, or combinations used for boundaries, traffic flow lines, general housekeeping areas. And finally, magenta, or purple on yellow, is the specific code for radiation caution. Using these consistently provides instant universal understanding.
It's amazing how ingrained those are. You see red, you think stop or danger almost automatically. Are there any of those colors that people sometimes misuse or get wrong in a workplace?
That's a good point. Sometimes you might see yellow used for just general attention grabber instead of a specific caution, which can kind of dilute its meaning over time.
Ah,
Or maybe not clearly differentiating between an orange warning, be aware, and a red danger, immediate hazard stop. So sticking to the standard, the exact meaning, is really key for that clear communication.
gotcha. So if that's a visual display communicating information, what then is a visual control? How is it different?
Right. Visual controls take it a step further. They don't just communicate information, they actively help to monitor and control activities, making sure they stick to the established standards. They're designed to guide behavior or immediately signal when something deviates from the standard, often prompting an action.
Okay, so they guide or enforce actions. Like what sort of things?
Well, think about standard operating procedures, or SOPs, especially if they're posted visually with pictures. Statistical process control charts that show if a process is drifting out of limits. Process control specifications. Workmanship standards, maybe with photos showing acceptable versus unacceptable quality. Basically, any visual cue that actively enforces or guides a specific action or signals when the state is wrong.
Can you give maybe a couple more concrete examples of visual controls in action? Ones that really show that control element.
Sure. A visual production schedule board is a great example. It clearly shows what needs to be made by when, maybe tracking progress in real time. It directly controls the flow of work.
Okay.
Or a visual performance tracker, maybe a whiteboard or screen showing output goals versus actual output right now. It immediately signals if you're falling behind the standard, prompting action. Kanban systems are classic visual controls, a card turning over, or different colored bins or cards, maybe green for OK stock, yellow for reorder point, red for critical low. That visual signal directly controls when new supplies are ordered.
Right, the visual triggers the action.
Exactly. Even things like visual alarms, a light changing color, or flashing when a machine parameter goes out of spec.
Yeah.
That's a control. It signals something is wrong against the standard and demands intervention.
Okay, that distinction is much clearer now. Displays, inform, controls, guide, or enforce. So if an organization wants to really implement this whole system, visual management, across the board, how should they approach it strategically? What are the key steps?
Well, the why is pretty clear, right? It's to build this robust system of visual communication and control. It really leverages the highest level of the 5S concept, pushing towards that visual control ideal. The who usually needs to be a cross-functional team. You need input from different areas, supported by local teams out on the floor or in the offices. And the what are they implementing? It involves standardizing the 5S system itself across the whole place, and then layering on top all the visual metrics, the visual displays we talked about, and the visual controls, making sure they are standardized too.
Okay, and the how. How do you actually make it happen in practice?
It usually starts by creating a common visual language for the entire site. Everyone needs to understand the same signals, the same colors, the same types of boards. Consistency is vital. So you typically form and train a dedicated visual factory team. They'd create a detailed implementation plan, then establish clear standards for all the visual displays and controls you're going to use. Then you start the actual physical implementation, putting up the boards, the labels, the lines. And then, critically, you need to ensure that the underlying 5S system is implemented consistently and standardized alongside all these new visual elements throughout the entire facility. It really has to be a holistic, integrated approach to get the full benefit.
Wow, okay. This has been a really insightful deep dive, and we've definitely unpacked how 5S and visual controls work together as this, well, holistic system, transforming any workplace, making it more organized, yes, but also more efficient and safer. And it's so clear it's much more than just, cleaning or tidying up. It's really about cultivating a disciplined way of working and thinking. That impacts everything.
That's exactly right. It builds that culture of continuous improvement, and the results are tangible. better productivity, higher quality, improved safety, definitely boosts employee morale too. It's fundamentally about designing an environment that almost like speaks to you. It guides you towards working more effectively and safely.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe carry with you. Look around your own workspace right now. It
Yeah.
could be your home office, your garage, maybe even just your computer's desktop or your kitchen counter. Can you spot just one area where you could apply that very first S sort? Just get rid of the unnecessary stuff.
Yeah, start small.
What immediate benefit might you see, or maybe even just feel, from that one simple act of decluttering? And then take it a step further. Imagine how a truly visually managed environment, where things have clear places, where status is obvious, how could that reduce your own personal wastes of time, motion, and searching?
Mm-hmm.
It might just change how you approach not only your workflow, but maybe even your overall peace of mind.